Even though you came to the mayor's office after a lot of years as a member of city council, there's a learning experience. How different does the world and the city look to you now after some time in office?
Well, I'm very lucky as the mayor of the city of Tucson to be able to have a council that likes to work together and that has been terribly effective at really creating policy and changing systems and structures to deliver services to our community in an innovative, evidence-based way. And so the support of my council colleagues as well as the city manager and the community has been incredibly important. It has enabled me to perform as the mayor in the best way that I can.
What are some changes and improvements that were the result of what you just described?
Yes, absolutely. First and most importantly, the world is completely different than when I first got elected in November of 2019. We went through a global pandemic, and because of it, we saw a lot of societal ills being highlighted as a consequence of the global pandemic, something that had been there, or many things that had been there before, but because of the pandemic, we saw highlighted. And so I had to adjust as a newly elected mayor that had never done the job, but I had all of the 12 years of experience as a council member. I knew my colleagues on the council, knew the city manager, had their support, and we really had to reinvent the way we not only worked, because we had to do a lot of work from home, but also deliver services to our community. And so we created new programs where I saw the gaps. For example, we created our Housing First program. We created an equity office. We created a small business program that had never been there before with small business navigators to help our small businesses. We created our community safety, health, and wellness program. We hired a new chief, created the community service officers for TPD. We came from 0 to 132 community service officers at TPD. We are working holistically as a community in terms of community safety, health, and wellness, really pinpointing our investments on infrastructure and making sure that we are using evidence-based solution for unsheltered homelessness and health and behavioral health issues that we saw highlighted during the pandemic.
Now, years ago when I covered a city hall in a different city, I had an old friend from college who pretty much, as long as he didn't break his car in a pothole, didn't get robbed, and his garbage disappeared like magic, he didn't want to hear anything else out of City Hall. What, for your average person may say, well, I don't know if I have a stake in what you just described. Yes. Why do they?
Tucsonans have been telling us for years what they're interested in the city of Tucson in terms of investment. One, they've told us very clearly they want the city of Tucson to invest in our roads, in our mobility, in our infrastructure. And one of the first things that I did as a newly elected mayor was to add to our roads infrastructure funding on top of what we spend year to year, an additional $14 million a year, the first 2 years that I became mayor. And then I worked really hard to lead and pass an initiative, a 10-year initiative, Proposition 411, that will invest $750 million in residential road repair and pedestrian and cyclist infrastructure to keep people safe, because we were killing too many people on our roads. So infrastructure and roads is one of the first investments, and historic investments, by the way. We've never seen in the history of our city the city commit to investing more than $600 million on residential road repair.
Now, you just mentioned some of those priorities within the overall umbrella of transportation. Please elaborate on it a little bit. It's so you're trying to get cars and then stuff.
Yes, absolutely. The $750 million is very focused on residential road repair, which when I became mayor, we had seen a need of $600 million worth of investment that we had. I worked steadily and led in passing Proposition 411, which by the way passed with 73% of the vote of Tucsonans. So that's very clear. That's exactly what they want. I've worked really hard with our congressional delegation and the Biden administration to bring in millions of dollars of infrastructure investment for bridge building out of bridges and investing in our transit system and making sure that people have the services that they want the city of Tucson to deliver. Community safety is a perfect example of how we're looking at public safety differently in partnership with Chief Kazmar and TPD to really look at delivering community safety to our community in a much more comprehensive and holistic way. That's what Tucsonans want. When they say we want safe and vibrant neighborhoods, they want safety for their children, but they also want investment in their parks. They also want investment in their mental health, behavioral health services for our community. That's what we're doing in partnership with TPD, in partnership with our Community Safety, Health, and Wellness program. We are creating new systems and innovative structures to deliver the services to our community and investing in our people, investing in our residents, in our neighborhoods, and infrastructure is part of that.
In the great endless tug of war of time, people, and money, how do you get all that paid for?
Well, we found the money, right? We have worked really hard. I, as mayor, have worked really hard to find solutions and the funds that we can put towards our infrastructure, Proposition 411, that's $750 million that we're going to be investing in our roads for the next 10 years. $25 million that I brought from the federal government to start and finish the 22nd Street Bridge. We have brought in millions of dollars, more than $10 million for our police department to do holistic approaches to fighting crime. We've instituted a place network investigation in 3 areas of our city, brought down gun violence and crime by 75, almost 88% in certain areas of our city. We've invested more than $90 million on top of the regular budget for infrastructure for police, fire, and our 911's communication system. That is delivering investments in the area of our service delivery to our community that they've been asking for. Millions of dollars in federal funds, in layering investments in areas like the Thrive in the O5, $50 million that we brought from federal government for the Thrive in the O5 to create more than 400 affordable housing units in the city of Tucson and fix the Tucson House and offer workforce development opportunities, investments in the neighborhood surrounding that area. And we want to duplicate those efforts for the safety of our community.
Now, nobody's telling us that police recruitment and staffing is where you want it to be. How do you improve upon that with a lot of competition from other agencies, a lot of competition from the job market in general? Somebody might go, well, I'll take my skills to an entirely different career. How do you improve upon that?
Well, I, as mayor, have presided in the last 3.5 years over historic wage increases for our first responders and every city employee, as a matter of fact. Our first responders, and that includes our police officers, we are seeing increases. For the first time in 5 years, we've seen an increase in commissioned officers. We have expanded the civil employees that help at the police department by 20%. We have dedicated funding for police, fire, and 911 at historic levels. And, we are working also on all of the other benefits to be able to not just recruit, but retain the police officers that we have. For the first time ever, we've seen numbers of commissioned police officers grow. We created a whole new position to be able to help police officers in their community engagement and service work. 132 community service officers. That position didn't even exist before I became mayor in the city of Tucson. So I've advocated for the mental and emotional health, investing in struggle well programs for our police officers. We created, which I love, an incredible child care program that is dedicated for police, fire, and 911 workers of the city of Tucson. All of the investments that we're doing is for the benefit of our recruitment and retention. And by the way, every single city in America has been struggling to recruit new police officers. It's not something new. It's not something that the city of Tucson is doing alone, but we're working really hard to make sure that we're paying our officers well, that we're retaining them, that we're paying them good benefits, and that we're investing in the infrastructure that they need in order to be safe and to keep our community safe.
You mentioned the community service officers a couple of times. We should probably explain that what they are. They're basically officers who can handle a lot of police work, but don't have arrest powers and don't carry guns because they do the kind of work where that's not needed.
They do, yeah. Community service officers get very similar training as police officers, but they do not carry guns. They do mostly community engagement and public service. They go to neighborhood associations. They do a lot of work. They pick up a lot of work that rested on the shoulders of police officers, and now police officers have that extra help in community service officers. And by the way, it really is a pipeline in growing our own police officers. Many community service officers move from that to finalizing the training for Police Officer Academy.
Now, you've been pretty high profile on environmental things. Now, why is now the right time when you've got so many other things competing for resources and so on?
Let me see how I answer this question. As a policymaker and as mayor of the city of Tucson, and I've learned this with my 16 years of experience in public office, working on many different issues is not mutually exclusive, right? It's not about, well, I'm just going to focus on climate. I'm just going to focus on infrastructure. That is not how policymaking and being the mayor of our city works. You've got to be able to have the competence and knowledge and intelligence and innovative thinking to be able to work on a myriad of very complex and complicated issues. So when people say, why are you focusing on climate? I usually say, it's not a mutually exclusive type of work. I understand enough and have enough knowledge and incompetent to be able to work on infrastructure, on public safety and community safety, on making sure that we become a climate resilient city, on making sure that the quality of life of our residents is getting better and better, improving our parks, making sure that we're creating youth employment programs in the city of Tucson, empowering youth. making sure that we're investing in our neighborhoods and becoming vibrant, safe communities, and economic development, making sure that we bring in high-wage, long-term jobs for the city of Tucson. And we did that with American Battery Factory coming in. I personally went and met with the CEO of American Battery Factory and told them why he needed to choose the city of Tucson. So in order to be mayor, you've got to be able to have your eyes and your hands in many complex and a myriad of issues that affect the quality of life of Tucsonans. And I believe that I've done exceptionally well in many of these areas.
Now, given Tucson's climate and environment as it exists now, does it have a particular place in the whole climate and environmental issue?
What's that question again?
Given the environment and climate Tucson has right now, does it have a particular place in the environment issue, nationally or whatever? I mean, we're a hot city, a dry city, forecasted to be more so, all of that.
Before I became mayor, the city of Tucson did not have a strategic action plan to become a much more resilient city. And as the CEO of our water utility company, we have been living as a state and in the Southwest in a 20-year drought. We are seeing heat rise, and we are seeing wildfires throughout Arizona, including in the outskirts of Tucson. We have to be much more climate resilient. We've got to cut down on greenhouse gases because that contributes to climate change. And here in Arizona, the city of Tucson is one of the fastest warming cities in the country. And so in order to be able to continue living here and seeing an economy prosper and flourish, we've got to be able to have water, which we're working fast and furiously to be able to protect for Tucsonan. And two, we've got to be able to be prepared for a much more warmer environment. And so planting trees helps with a heat or urban heat island effect, which basically means without trees, we have a hotter and hotter environment. Trees gobble up greenhouse gases, and so it helps with stemming climate change. And we are leading in this country. We're leading in Arizona, and we're leading in this country as a city that is going to be prepared so that we can flourish and thrive for generations to come.
If you look at the slow pace at which these things develop and the slow pace required to change things, what does that say about your timeline and how things have to be done?
I believe the pace that we've taken the last 3.5 years on everything from infrastructure and road repair to creating a much more comprehensive and holistic approach to community safety, to investing in Tucson police and fire and 911, to investing in parks and acting on climate and having a strategic plan for affordable housing and homelessness, that we're putting them to work, right? We're implementing these strategic plans. I believe that we have moved at the speed of light the last 3.5 years on how to deliver services to our community that are innovative and based on research that proves that there's evidence of what we're doing is the right thing.
Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, what can and should the city be doing about the homeless we see so frequently?
The city of Tucson, before I became mayor, did not have a comprehensive strategy on how to deal with unsheltered homelessness in our community. And so what I asked in the first 3 months in office as mayor, that our housing community development put together a housing affordability strategy for Tucson. Any business owner understands that you have to have a business plan in order to fulfill the goals. We did the same thing with our housing affordability. We've used federal funds, both CARES and American Rescue Plan dollars, to purchase shelters, and we created the Housing First program that houses individuals first, wraps around the services that they need, and then moves them to much more permanent housing. Since we created Housing First, we've permanently housed more than 600 individuals that were previously unsheltered. And so that program is one piece of the puzzle. It's not the silver bullet, but it works with other nonprofit organizations to be able to fill the gaps where they existed before. And in terms of affordable housing, it's a housing continuum from unsheltered homelessness to shelters, to temporary housing, to much more permanent housing, all the way to home ownership. We have that plan, and we're working fast and furiously in making sure that we're creating more affordable housing units and more opportunities for our community to be able to live in a safe home.
Now, sort of a version of the same question, but they really shouldn't be mashed up. What can and should the city be doing about migrants passing through?
Mm-hmm. The city of Tucson has always been an immigrant welcoming community. And that doesn't mean that Congress shouldn't be held accountable and responsible for doing their work. Their work, Congress's work, is to be able to create laws if laws in this country are not working. And our immigration laws are outdated and haven't been updated in the last 30 years. So first and most importantly, Congress needs to do their job. We have a broken immigration system that complicates everything. And Tucson being 60 miles away from the border, we do see immigrants and asylum seekers passing through our city. What we have done is we've gone as Pima County and Catholic Community Services and the city of Tucson, is we've gone to our federal partners and asked them to fund the money necessary to provide the services for asylum seekers and immigrants to arrive in Tucson from the border, and then usually they spend here 36 to 72 hours, and then they connect to the rest of the country wherever their sponsors are. So we are working very effectively with the Biden administration to make sure, and our congressional delegation, to make sure that there are funds, enough funds, to be able to use to provide the services that immigrants and asylum seekers need. If we wouldn't do that, if we wouldn't partner up with a nonprofit like Casalitas and Pima County and the city of Tucson, then we would see people left out in the street. And that is not safe for our community, and it's not safe for the individual that is left in a country that they don't know anything about. And so I think we have to make sure that we see this as a humanitarian need, and that we continue working with the federal government, making sure that they are sending us enough funds to be able to do the work that is a consequence of Congress not doing their job.
And we've seen some alarm recently that there's a fear that funding's going to dry up.
Well, there's concern, and I am working hand in hand with our congressional delegation, with our senators, as well as the Biden-Harris administration, to be able to say, hey, because of the lack of Congress doing their job, cities are going to be left with having to deal with this humanitarian crisis. And so, of course, yes, we absolutely need Congress to fund the same federal dollars that they have been sending the city, the county, and Casalitas to do the humanitarian work that we need to do.
We've covered a lot. There's still more we could, but this is where that uncut interview is going to help us out. Mm-hmm. So let me just, I think that's as much as we can do, but let me just ask you in closing, is there anything you want to add here? Sometimes people go, I wish you had asked this or that.
Yes. I am, first and most importantly, I love serving as mayor of our beautiful city. Tucsonans are unique. We have incredible culture and heritage and history, and we care. We care about each other and our community, and that is something that I have worked on as the mayor of the city of Tucson. But I've also been very effective in changing the systems and structures that were not working and had not been working for decades, and really looking at our budget based on what Tucsonans have told us they care about. Tucsonans care about investing not just in our parks and infrastructure and roads, but they also want community safety. They also want to make sure that we're investing in the smart way into the safety and vibrancy of our neighborhoods. And so I believe that I've been very effective in balancing our budget in a way that reflects the priorities of Tucsonans, investing millions of dollars in road repair, working with Tucsonans to invest more than $600 million in road repair, bringing in federal and state funds for the benefit of Tucsonans and the quality of life of our city. And at the end of the day, I believe that Tucson should be a safe, vibrant, thriving desert city that has economic opportunity for all families and all individuals in our city. And that's, we've taken leaps and bounds to be able to get on that road. Much more to do, but I believe we've done incredible work the last 3.5 years.
Okay, thanks very much. We just need to hold still for a minute, get the nodding reporter shots.